go.
right. Oh, got it. Okay, great. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Good morning. For today, I think I've taught on a few of these over the years, and I think the biggest thing that comes up on these calls and when I talk to you guys is we're all at different places when it comes to social media. And a lot of people will ask, like, well, how do I even get started? Like, it's so overwhelming. I don't know what to do. And I think that's a big part of what I've been hearing recently. And so for this call, I want it to be super interactive. You can unmute yourself whenever you want. You can cut me off, raise your hand, just talk. I really don't care. I want to see you guys in the chat. I want to hear your opinions. I want to know where you're at because there's so much that I can teach on social media. It's one of my lead gen strategies that I use, but it's useless for me to teach social media here if we're here or here if we're here. So I want to hear from you guys. I know what I've been hearing lately, so I of course have notes, but I definitely am open to hearing where you guys are at as well. And you don't have to wait to the end for questions. So feel free to jump in at any time. With that, I just want to go ahead and get started and kind of see where you guys are. So who here would say that they use social media for business? You can raise your hand or jump in the chat. Okay, actually quite a few of you. Awesome. And if you want to put it in the chat or if a few of you want to chime in, I want to know what social media platform you focus on the most. That's going to really help me with this call. So if anybody wants to chime in or throw it in the chat, what social media platform are you focusing on for business? Okay, we already have a ton of different answers. Awesome. Instagram, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Instagram. Okay, awesome. Awesome, guys. Oh, I see a LinkedIn in here, Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so the first thing that I really wanted to touch on is I want you guys to work on getting really clear on this question. And this isn't something that I think a lot of people think about, but there's two different ways that you can really go about being on social media for business. And I think when I talk about lead generation, this is what I look at whenever I bring an agent onto EXP and we do coaching together. We have two boxes here. These are your main lead gen pillars right here. I want you guys to think about, whether one of these is database, which we all know George talks a lot about. You probably want that on there. And maybe one of these is cold calling, social media, door knocking. I want you guys to think about open houses. Do you want social media being one of these top priorities? Like when I talk to you about lead generation and what your full-time job basically is as a realtor, I want you to think about, like, do you really want social media to be your full-time job as an agent? Because I think some people think that, social media is necessary for real estate. And I'll be the first person to tell you that it's not. And I think that there can be some pressure around it too. Like, oh, I got to learn social media. I got to learn social media. I'm so overwhelmed by it. But unless you really want social media to be here in your top 2 or 3, then I would step aside and think, maybe I don't need to have social media all figured out. And maybe I don't need to make social media my main priority. Maybe I just want a good online presence. Chris Dove does a really good job speaking on this. She calls her Instagram her resume. So maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want Instagram and your Facebook page just be your resume so that when people go to them, they quickly see that you're on there, they see what you do, what you're about, and they click off. And that's what most people are going to do anyway. So when I deep dive into social media for lead generation, which I know this can sound super counterintuitive because this is a class on social media for lead gen. I want you to think about, like, do you really want to be a content creator? Do you really want social media to be your full-time job? Just like people focus full-time on open houses, door knocking, cold calling, because we can go both ways. So we can go all in on social media and put it at the top here, or we can use it to just build somewhat of an online presence. So if you guys have any questions on that, feel free to raise your hand. But if that's starting to resonate, I would love to hear from a few of you what you want to do for your social media. Like, do you see it being one of your lead gen pillars up at the top? Or do you see it maybe now as something that can be just an online presence builder? Ken, go ahead. I'd love to hear from you.
The thing, Jessica, that is hard for me to understand is I have friends of mine who are coaches, for lack of a better word, consultants, coaches, and I would estimate that they're probably on social media 12, 14 hours a day. They create major content. They know how to create attraction to clients and to get them to get involved in it and then put them in their system, in their groups. I just don't understand how they can. I mean, everything they do is around designing lead generation but I just don't understand how they do it that many hours a day.
It's
They're
and that
never off. They're never not creating content. I mean, if they're
yeah,
going out to the movies, they're going out to dinner, they're walking in the park. Every single thing they do, they're documenting.
yeah.
It's
So, and that's exactly why I wanted to start with that point is, do you want social media to be literally exactly what you're saying, Ken, your full-time job, one of your main lead gen pillars, or do you want it to be just so you have somewhat of an online presence? So I know you're saying you see people doing that, and I'm guessing these are people that you look up to are successful, right?
Yeah, because I think the content that they create is amazing because they allow you into their life and you could see the transformation that they're going through. So that and they involve you in it. They're just very, very open about their life,
Yeah.
and which is kind of unusual. Almost to the point like, why would you tell people that? It's like, but they do, but they have this, they just keep on developing this huge audience because very few people share that intimacy with you. It just wow. And it's just and they're great writers. And so that also helps.
Absolutely. So, and
So
that's a big, oh, go ahead.
no, so for me, I want to use it as lead generation. First, I want to be able to understand it, but to be on it as a tool to develop customers. I don't want to make it literally like a lifestyle. When I've been around my children, my children used to say, my kids used to say, Dad, can you ever get off your phone? You're never with, you're like, you're involved in your stuff. You're not involved with us. You're not being present. We want to be able to, have a relationship and you're on your phone, meaning that I'm not necessarily talking to somebody, but I'm doing something. I'm either entering information or I'm about to enter information or I'm posting something or I'm on my journal. So they want to have a presence with me. So I would rather do it as a lead generation, developing, customers rather than having it 12 hours a day as a lifestyle.
Yeah, and you make a great point, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I think some people think if I have lead generation up here, that means it's my whole life. But nobody that I know does open houses 12, 14 hours a day. Nobody that I know cold calls 12 to 14 hours a day. So there's no reason why social media has to also leak into your personal life. If you guys follow me on socials, I'll say like I am really, really intentional about it because I've been on it for years. You won't see a lot of personal stuff on my social media. I'll share things that I think are relevant to business, but like, I mean, about a month ago, I was on an 8-day cruise and I didn't post once. I didn't have my phone out for that cruise at all because I wanted to be present to my family and to the people that I was on that trip with. And so the people that you are seeing on social media that you feel like are sharing 12 hours a day on social, they actually are probably just taking little clips throughout their day and putting it into a 30-second video. And to do those clips, I'm literally telling you, when I've done like day in the life videos, let's say, it's literally about 3 seconds of filming per clip. So there's no reason why it has to take you out of your personal life. And there's also no reason why you should feel like you have to share everything on social media. As somebody who gets at least a third, if not half of my business from social media, I can tell you I do that without sharing about my interpersonal relationships. And
Yeah,
I
that's
really
encouraging to me.
that.
That's encouraging.
Absolutely. I really actually find, I'll show up and I'll be real and I'll have my personality infused. But I think when people come to my page, they're there for real estate. They want to learn about real estate. They want to learn about the market. They want to learn about bettering themselves as agents. So I find if I start just putting in videos of my dogs, I don't necessarily feel like that aligns with what the message is that I'm trying to share. So hopefully that sheds some light on the personal and business. I'm glad we jumped right into that because that's something I hold near and dear to my heart. I never want to feel like when I'm at dinner with my fiance or I'm with my family that I have to be doing this. And I don't. I really don't. I'll set aside time for content creation within my day because it's part of my business. So
Great,
that's
thank
my
you.
work day, not part of my personal day. Absolutely. Thank you for chiming in. Simon, go ahead.
Hey, Jessica, how are you? This, sorry, I jumped in late. So you're talking about your business page, right? Not putting your personal stuff on your business page or on your personal account, like on Facebook or something.
Good question. So it's going to look different for everybody. For me personally, I have my personal pages are for business. So I have one Instagram account, one TikTok account, one podcast, one Facebook page. So for me, I use it interchangeably. I have actually thought about opening a second Facebook account so I can share more personally with my actual friends and family, because you'll see once you start using Facebook and everything for business, you're going to get hundreds of friend requests and it's going to get to a point where you do not know who your Facebook friends are anymore. So I don't feel as comfortable sharing as personally as I used to, because like I was just saying to Ken, I don't feel the need to post all my personal stuff to gain traction in my business. So because I'm a more actually, believe it or not, I stay actually on the more private side. I actually look at all of my social media pages as there for business. All right. So thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I know everybody in the chat was kind of saying all different things, right? I see a lot of Instagram, a lot of Facebook, some YouTube. And so we're all kind of going ahead and doing our own things when it comes to using social media for lead gen. What I want to touch on is there's two things that I would really like for you guys to focus on. And this is something that you probably won't hear in a lot of places because this is just what personally has really worked for me. And I think if you guys are doing it too, you'll see a huge difference. So there's two things. One is called short form content and one is called long form content. So I really, really want you guys to think about this. I see Deep shaking his head because it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And it's really, really important because this is what 10x my business. This is what went from just posting photos to actually converting. So short form content are those short videos, the YouTube shorts, the Instagram reels, the TikToks, the posts on Facebook. Those are all what I call short form content. Those are for my online presence builders and for my lead gen builders. That is important. I want you guys to have the short form presence. That's where people are going to find you. Reels is a great way to push your stuff out. TikTok pushes your stuff out. Now YouTube Shorts is pushing your stuff out. Short form content is really important for your business, but it's not the end all be all. And I think a lot of us get onto Instagram, Facebook, start creating accounts there and think that that's going to be what gets me business. And it might, and you're definitely able to build a good presence there. But I'm talking now to my people who want social media up here. They want social media to be a part of their big business. I really need you to consider adding in what's called long form content to match your short form. So that's like my Georges that are using YouTube and podcasting. Long form content is where people are actually going to get to know you. That's where they're going to connect with you. That's where they have you in their ears for 15, 30 minutes, an hour at a time, or where they're literally going and binging your content. So some people, believe it or not, are going to be listening to you for hours and hours a day. That is where you're going to start to see your massive conversion. I'm not saying Instagram and TikTok don't work. They absolutely do. But if you can get them next to a platform where they can listen to you for hours at a time, really get to know your personality, your teaching style, that know, like, and trust can go from taking months and months and months to build the relationship to, I'm not even kidding you, I've had people binge my podcast in a day or two and are sending me referrals. So that is something I really want you guys to think about. So who here is using long form content in their business? Not a lot. Okay. This is definitely something I want to focus on. So if you guys are using Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those are awesome. And that's where people are going to most likely find you. So people ask me all the time, how did you grow the podcast? How did you grow the podcast? It's from my short form content. It's from Instagram and TikTok. I didn't just throw a podcast or throw a YouTube channel up and expect it to blow up. What I did was I pointed people from my short form content to my long form content. And as the long form content grows, then it starts getting pushed up. Then it starts, I've had the podcast get on like different, like top 10 in marketing, top 10 in this, and then that starts to blow up, but it started with the short form. So if you're just getting started in social media, I'd really like you to focus on short form because that's where people are going to find you. That's where you're going to build your online presence. Like if people are saying like, oh, she didn't even have an Instagram page when I went to look her up. If you're that person that's kind of scared of that, I'd prefer you definitely start with the short form, start with the Instagram, the TikTok, the Facebook page, get your online presence up there. And then for those of you that really want to put it here, that want social media to be the end all be all for your business, I really want you to pair in some long form content so that your followers can get to know you. Any questions on that?
Jessica, I have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Vanessa.
Don't you think that it can all be so incredibly overwhelming? You could be my daughter. So, at 52, a lot of us are like, okay, I'm a complete sphere individual. You look on my Instagram, you look on my, I don't even have TikTok. I don't even have Snapchat. I don't have any of that. But you look on my Facebook and my Instagram, I'm most noted from all my people more as kind of a life coach, real estate agent. So if I'm not posting positive stuff, I don't post anything that I sell, yet I am one of the top 1% in Austin. So I don't post anything that I sell. Is that something that you think to grow, your business and so forth is integral, or is it better just to stay true to who you are? And I don't share a lot of my personal life either.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I hope that is coming throughout this whole conversation. And that's why I started with, do you even need to be on social media? Because as somebody who is on social media, the answer to me is no. I don't think that you need to use social media for lead generation. I have way too many agents on my team doing great with real estate and selling millions and millions of dollars of home without social media. I have cold callers, door knockers, open housers. I don't think that social media needs to be on their top two. That's why I really wanted to start this call off, because I know, especially when you guys come to me with questions and you're just getting started, you're like, oh, it's so overwhelming. Where do I start? What do I do? And
I was going to say, I also think it's important. Like I've been in 12 years. I'm well over a $30 million producer. I'm not new. I'm a 6-time Icon agent. I'm on this because I like to hear younger, and I've got my kiddos who are 18 getting into real estate. So I want to see your fresh perspective on, because obviously you grew up in the age where the phone was attached to you. You know what I mean? You can see that you're younger, so you don't know what it was like, and they definitely don't know what it's like not to have a phone or something attached to them. So for those of us who are more my age, and what you're saying, I don't door knock, I don't cold call, I don't do open houses, and I never have, but I've stayed true to who I am, and I continuously increase my business and so forth. Do you think it's more important to be who you are and authentic, staying to you, versus making sure you're putting in pillars that maybe don't necessarily fit that authenticity of who you are?
Exactly. And I think that's what I was saying. That's what I've been saying this whole call. I really want you guys to think about, does social media need to be up here for you? Because for most of you, the answer is no. Just like you, who you've built your business through other ways. Maybe for social media, you just want to start with having somewhat of an online presence, like it sounds like you already have. And that's what I really want you guys to think about. Like, does social media need to be your full-time job? Because just like some people will say door knocking will never be here for me, the same person can say social media will never be here for me. And that's okay, because like you said, you've built your business on Sphere. The next person built their business on door knocking. So who am I to say it has to be social media? It doesn't. So actually, I'm a firm believer that before you go all in and overwhelm yourself with a lead gen pillar that may not be the right fit for you, really start to think about, like, does social media need to be my top 2, my top 3? Because for most people, it doesn't. So I agree with you, especially if it's something that doesn't feel aligned, or if it's something that you have resistance towards, then I would say social media doesn't have to be anywhere near your top 2 or 3.
That's awesome. I love hearing that from a young person. Like,
Oh yeah, and I mean it. I mean it.
don't, it's pretty daunting that everybody's pushing, you have to be doing this, you have to be doing this. And I'm like, not everything feels right. I mean, I'm putting my husband out on stage. He's starting a podcast called Cowboys, Trailers, and Ranches, because we do a lot of farm and ranch, and that's his whole industry. So he goes live on Thursday for the first time from San Antonio Stock Show. So that's his gig. So I'm like, just throw me the people. I'll deal with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be the front face, I don't need that.
Exactly. And that's why I really like, when I was thinking about this call and the questions that I get on a regular basis, I'm like, so many people are forcing themselves on social media that would never force themselves to cold call, that would never force themselves to door knock. So I'm a firm believer, pick your top 2 or 3 for you. It sounds like Sphere database and you're set. Like, you don't need to be on social media as a main lead gen pillar. Maybe, like I talked about in the beginning, it's good to have a bit of an online presence, but yeah, I'm a firm believer. It doesn't have to be up there.
When you said you don't share a lot of personal, I do like milestone stuff, more or less. Like I'll be posting something later today with another agent out of Austin. She has a group called Work Hard, Smile Large that does a lot of vision mapping, and she brought in kids and my son to speak. So I'll be pushing something out like that shows a little bit of personal. But what do you feel about the overload of, look what I sold, how much I sold? What do you think?
Vanessa, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to hold off for a second on this. Guys, let's do this. Let's let her get through a lot of the content, because we're already now 25 minutes in and we're starting to dive off into specifics, which is great at 9:30 when we break. But I don't want to move away from what we're doing. If you're not going to be on social media on a full time, that's great. You're going to get some terrific nuggets, write them down. But there's a lot that she's got to uncover. And if we start going down wormholes with everybody jumping in, we're not going to get to where we want to be. And it's not about one, it's about all of us at this point. At 9:30, let's dive into what you're doing, Vanessa. But the truth is, you're rocking it. This is going to be an add-on at best for you. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're awesome.
I agree.
I appreciate it. I'm just asking questions because I have a lot of younger people that are asking me. So
We can do that. 9:30, let's go through them for sure, because they're very specific and we want to give her an opportunity to hit everybody on this. Jess, take it away.
All right. Thanks, guys. So kind of jumping back in. So like George said, we'll go more into the content part. So when it comes to actually the long form and the short form, I saw there was a few questions on what that is. So just going back to that, short form is as simple as it sounds, the short versions of yourself. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you're hitting them short. Long form is YouTube, podcast, where they can get longer doses of you and get to know you in a longer span of time. And I actually noticed most of you don't have long form content. So again, this is really for the people that want to go all in on social media when it comes to long form content. If you already have short form going on and maybe you're hitting a bit of a wall and you're like, I have, short form set up, and I'm not really seeing conversions. There's a few things that I want to talk about. So when you're first getting set up on social media, we can even go back to those that are just beginning and you want to start your Instagram page or your TikTok, start to just identify where you think you would fit in. Instagram's going to be more photos. TikTok's going to be a little more videos. Of course, TikTok is almost all video at this point. So let's say you're just getting started. You want to go, I would say your first step is to start with a short form content. So pick out one of those. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to work on your page as an online presence builder at first. Like, this is where I want people to go to find me. Let's say they have a referral in Boca Raton. This is how I want people to know that I am here. I am selling here. So you're going to want to start with an optimized bio. That's the little area right in the front. Who you do, what you are, what you sell. You're going to want your bio to be as optimized as possible so that people know, one, how they can find you, because if I need you to have your city in there or your county at least, where you sell. And then from there, the conversion, and what's really important is having what I call a CTA. You may have heard that before. It's a call to action. So your conversion is going to happen from the calls to action. If people are just seeing your face or seeing your photos or seeing your videos, they're like, okay, cool, good for Jessica. Like Vanessa was saying, like, oh, she closed another deal, great. But where they're actually going to start to want to work with you and connect with you and take the next steps is going to be with the call to actions. So examples of this would be, maybe you put a post up and you say, click the link in my bio for more info. Click the link in my bio for the podcast video. Instagram makes this really easy. You can actually link things out on your stories. So you can put a link on your story that says, click here for XYZ. And this is where you're going to start to see conversions. I wanted to show you guys really quickly, and some of this is going back to just the basics, which I feel like is good. So I'm going to share my screen here. I have my Instagram pulled up. So this is my page, just to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. You can see my bio is super concise. So in my name, I Boca Raton Realtor. That's just in my name. So instead of just having Jessica Baskes there, I optimize that by having Boca Raton Realtor there. So that when people search for Boca Raton Realtors, I'm what comes up. Do I sell in just Boca? No, but it is my main area of focus. And so I figure, let's go hard and get people to find me through that. Next, real estate agent and team lead, South Florida. Then I go a little more into the different areas that I sell in, Palm Beach and Broward counties. And then I have a link here. So bio, like I said, short and sweet. I want to know where you sell, what you do, because if I can't even figure that out, you're going to be missing out on follow opportunities, especially for my online presence builders that just want people to have a place they can go to and say, oh, she's actively selling in Boca Raton. Great. I trust her now because she has a page. You're going to go here where it says links and discounts. You can add a link to your profile. So this is called a link tree. It's completely free. So when I talk about having a call to action and sending people somewhere, this is going to be one of your most valued resources, is your link tree. Or if you were, if you just had one link, like work with me here, and then it's a link to your form or your template or anything like that. So I wanted to talk on conversion a lot today, because I think that's really important. If you're using lead generation on social media, you need to be able to convert them from just seeing your page to actually working with you. So when you go to my page, you have my link tree here, and it links out to all these things. So there's so many ways you can go about this. Linktree is so easy and it's free, like I said. So the first thing people see is I want to buy or sell a home. The next thing is I want to invest, because I work with a good amount of investors. Podcast link, because again, like I talked about, the long form content is where they actually know, like, and trust me. So you want your first few links to be really important. eXp Realty Discovery Call. I get a lot of agents from my social media joining my team. So you want your first few links to be your most important. You may not even want any other links outside of that. So for me, what I have here, I'm just going to show you guys and be an open book. So when people are on my Instagram or on my TikTok and I say link in bio to work with me, this is the link they're going to. So they're going to press here, and then this can link out to whatever you want. For me, I'm just using a Google form right now. I've done A/B tests on this on different things. I've done Calendly, which is where people can directly book into your calendar. So I do have that for my investors. When people want to invest, it actually brings them to a place where they can set up a call directly in my calendar. I find that this wasn't working as well with buyers and sellers. I think they just wanted a quick way to fill out a form and be done. So I find this has been more successful. Again, split test it on your own or whatever works best for you. But this is a really quick form. I don't ask too many questions. I'm not asking them all of their criteria in this form. I just want to know how I can reach them and what's the best way to do that moving forward. So this way they're on my intake. As soon as they fill out this form, I get a notification. And then from there, I can reach out and say, hey, this is Jessica, just got your intake form. I wanted to know when's the best time to set up a call. then you get to know them on their call. Just like a long form content, you want to make sure you have a way for them to get to know you. And I think the best way to do this is call. So even if they put their preferred communication as text, I would send them a text and say, hey, I just got your intake form, excited to work with you. When's the best time for a call so we can get to know each other? And if they give resistance to the call, at least you have their text message and you can start to work with them through text. So the Calendly has worked. You know, I had it on there for a while for everybody to just go straight to Calendly. I'm finding the form is just a little easier. The other really important thing that I've done, I get a good amount of sale leads from TikTok. So the other important things that I've done is I put my email here. So my email is actually in my bio. You don't get a lot of real estate with your bio on TikTok, I will say, but I think this is really important, and I'll have people directly emailing me. Another option is to put your phone number there. I've thought about getting a Google phone number and putting it in my bio, but for now, the email will do. So any questions on conversion, Linktree, kind of taking them from a follower to an actual lead? Any questions on that? Can you use Linktree on other than Instagram? Yes, you can use Linktree pretty much anywhere.
Jess, a quick comment on the Google number that it gives you, if you decided that you want to opt for a Google number or any form, you can do Number Barn, it doesn't matter. It's going to at some point give you freedom to take a week off or 3 days off, and you can point it to somebody else. And that's the really massive benefit.
I want to do it.
Right. So it'll free you up. And for others out there as well, if you have a dedicated number, like a phone, like a signed number or something like that, that you're dedicated, it may cost you around $6. You can go to numberbarn.com and then buy one, put that on your signs. Or if you're using it here, you'll actually know who's calling from what platform. But more than anything, you can point it to a friend who's going to cover for you while you're away, so you don't miss a valid lead through everything you're doing. Just food for thought.
Yeah, I would love to do that because I'm hesitant to put my phone number out there. What comes with putting yourself out there is unfortunately weird people, and I've been impersonated. I've had my account spammed. I mean, I've had all sorts of things go on with social media. We don't own the platforms, and unfortunately things can happen. So I've had some weird things happen by having my phone number out there. So to have a phone number that is not identifiable back to me, I think would be really useful for putting up there. So thank you for sharing that. And then who is that? Simon, go ahead.
I just, if you were to say in this call, like on all this different social medias you're doing, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, is there like 5 subjects that you stick to when you're making your short reels or posts or whatever that's always constant for you, that these are the topics that I'm always going to hound down and repeat and talk about? Or is it just whatever? I'm like, you're not talking about building a cake or whatever, you're trying to do it more for business. So if that's the case, is there like 5 subjects that you're constantly talking about that over and over again, as somebody's following you, they feel like, yeah, this girl really knows about this industry and I'm going to call her?
Awesome question. So yeah, going into content, because of course you guys need content to build this out. I'm glad that you brought that up. So for me, I know that my main focus is real estate. Like I talked about, I don't infuse a ton of personal. If you do, that's okay. But for me, I just find people are really there on my page for real estate content. So I stick to real estate content. A few things I do regularly. So day in the life is one of them. The biggest one I will say is monthly. I do a market update. Every month, the Florida Realtors puts out a market report for your state, your county, your city, and they're really good. Every state does this. It doesn't have to be Florida, but if you're in Florida, I know that they come out on the 23rd typically of every month. And you can compare the stats from the month before to the year before, from the month before to the month before that. So those videos tend to do really well for me. People know they're coming. You'll see my videos. I'm like, all right, it's January 23rd. That means the latest Florida market reports are out. And I'm annoyed just saying that because I say it so often. But those videos do really well for me. And those ones just happen to be, I would say, one of my main content pillars. So for me, it's market updates. And there's so much information you can extract from those market updates. I always tell myself, like, whenever I'm like in a rut and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to post, I'll just go back to the market updates and talk about it again and again. Maybe this time I talk about the average sale price going up. The next time I talk about days on market going up. The next time I talk about inventory. There is so much content you can extract from those alone. So for videos, I really like doing the market updates. The other things that I use for content is Coffee and Contracts. That's like a membership site where you can get real estate photos and they give you real estate content ideas and captions and buyer's guides and seller guide, kind of just like your all-in-one little portal you can go to pull content from as well. But that's for more like photos and short form. But yeah, so I would say there's a few
Can you put that link on the chat, what you just talked about? This,
yeah, so
wherever-
the content that I get from is called Coffee. I think it's coffeecontracts.com. So yeah, that's one that I use as well. Thank you guys. I have not been able to keep up with the chat, unfortunately, but if you raise your hand, I am happy to talk or unmute yourself. And Simon, did that answer your question?
Well, how often in a week are you putting up real estate content? Because you don't want to flood everybody like every day you're talking about something, right? So do you have like a set schedule, like Monday I do this, Tuesday I do that, and so forth?
Yeah, good question. So that's going to vary for everybody. I have no problem flooding people with content. I do post daily on Instagram stories. I find that that works for me. People engage, people seem to like it. They get high watch rates. So Instagram stories are daily for me. And again, just remember, I've been doing this for years. So this is something that, you know, comes more naturally. And I look at social media as a business. So, and I keep saying it, but I think it's really important to remember if social media is not one of your main business pillars, you don't need to be doing this every day, especially if you're just trying to build an online presence and just a resume on your Instagram. You could post once a month. But for me personally, I post daily on Instagram stories. TikTok has become a big part of my business, believe it or not. So I do post on TikTok pretty regularly. I aim for at least 3 times a week on TikTok. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. January was a really hard month for me personally. I think I posted twice. You know, sometimes you don't want to be posting content when you're going through stuff, but yeah, so take it as it comes, treat it like your business. If you would cold call and block out time for an hour for cold calling a day, block out time for an hour of making content a day. So I think it's just really important that if you're adding social media as a strategy, interchanging it and putting like, it's so easy because we're all consumers of social media. It's so easy for it to look fun, but you really, really need to treat it like a business. So if you're going to be doing open houses and you're spending 20 hours a week on open houses, that's the amount of time I would love to see you put towards social media if it's going to be your main lead gen strategy. So the time blocking is important with that too. Lee, go ahead.
Hi, how are you? All right, so I have a question about the long form content that you mentioned. So is that something that could be done on Instagram as well, or just YouTube, like videos? And how long would you say would be the minimum for your long content?
That's a great question. So for long form content, I'm pointing mostly to YouTube and podcasts. The reason being because I think the longest you can really post to Instagram would be 3 minutes at the max. And that's even at 3 minutes, that's not a lot of time for people to get to know you. And most likely your content on Instagram dies, right? Like Reels has helped out with that a little bit. When you post a Reel, sometimes for weeks, it will keep showing up in people's pages, but that's a short hit. And most Reels that do well, let's be honest, are about 5 seconds long. So I would say for long form content, it would do you well to add in a podcast or a YouTube so that you can get that, 10-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, up to an hour. I mean, I post sometimes hour-long podcast episodes. They do just as well as the 15-minute ones. But the biggest thing with long form content, and I know it sounds like a lot of work, but like I said, if you're using this for your business, it's worth it. With the long form content, it's really giving them the time and space to get to know you really, really well. And it's a platform that gets binged. People aren't binging your Instagram. If they are, it's for a few minutes, maybe max. You have the little highlights, so people will scroll through those, but they're not spending more than 5 minutes at a time with you. When people have me in their car for 30 minutes at a time, that's when I'm hearing from them. That's when they're clicking on the links. That's when they're joining my team, doing the discovery calls, sending me referrals, is from the long form content. So the short form is amazing, and that's what gets them to the long form. So if you already have the short form going, cannot stress enough adding in the long form and really thinking about that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Joan, go ahead.
So how do you differentiate yourself? Because there's so many realtors out there. How do you differentiate yourself in terms of making people want to listen to you and that what you're saying is valuable? So that you're not just like every other realtor.
Yeah, so great question. Social media has a really personal side to it. So even though I said I don't share a ton of personal stuff, just in your messaging, people get to know you. Like in cold calling, when you're using scripts, that's pretty generic. In social media, you actually get to show your personality. So just like I'm talking to you today, this is how I talk to my friends, right? Like this is not, a fake person that I show up as a robot reading a script. When I'm talking on my stories, I'm having fun, I'm engaging, I'm being myself. So I think what really differentiates on social media is your personality actually gets to be infused in your content, especially if you're using video. And I know a lot of us resist video, but the truth of the matter is that is what is being pushed out there in today's day and age. So at the end of the day, video is what will help differentiate you, because somebody who follows me and likes my personality may not follow you, and vice versa. I may be super annoying to them, so they want to follow you because they don't like my voice and how fast I talk. So, the cool thing about social media is that people are going to gravitate to you, and the ones that don't like you may gravitate to somebody else. So I would say it's really the personality being infused.
Do you have like a series so that they binge watch you?
On short
way?
form content, yeah, I have highlights on my Instagram. They're those little bubbles. And for example, I think one says like listings, one says trainings. But again, those are still pulling from your videos on stories, and your stories are short form. So your stories are like 15 seconds at a time.
But I mean, on your long form, do you do like a series on your long form?
Yeah, I have a podcast. So I have a podcast. It's called the Agent Retreat Podcast. And that is where I went from basically no agents on my real estate team. I should mention on my podcast and my Instagram, I focus more on agents. I focus more on agent growth. And then from that, I get a lot of agent referrals down here. But so what happens is they'll follow me on Instagram, and then I'll point them to the podcast. They get to know me and the people that I interview on the podcast.
Thank you.
Absolutely. DJ, I have you next.
Hi, do you take demographics into account at all?
You can. So if there's a certain demographic that you want to target, again, I think social media is a great way to do it. So I actually did have this down to talk about, actually, it's like one of the first things on my notes was to talk about niching down. And so what that looks like is, let's say you had a target demographic, maybe you work with military, maybe you used to be a teacher and you want to target other teachers. Maybe you're like me and you target other realtors and you like working with other realtor referrals. There's so many niches in real estate. I have a huge list of them that I could share. But yeah, so I think a really good way to target demographics is through niching down. Through picking out your niche and then going after them on the different social media platforms. And I lost you on my screen, but does that answer your question? Okay.
Sorry, yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I guess when you unraise your hand, it puts you to a different screen.
Well, I guess I'll finish with this. So how do you choose the demographics? Or how do you separate them? Yeah.
Good question. So for me, I just knew, especially as a younger new agent, I just knew like I would be more comfortable. And I think this happens to a lot of new agents. We feel like, oh, well, I'm newer, so I want to work with first-time home buyers. Oh, well, I'm newer, so I want to work with newer agents. I want to work with newer this. So I say when it comes to niching down, my best personal saying is go with what you know. I came from a legal background. I worked in a law firm before I got my real estate license. And so for me, when I first got into real estate, my target demographic was other attorneys. I wasn't an attorney, but I worked in a law firm. So I knew a bunch. I have attorneys in my family. That was the natural next step for me, was to go after that attorney network I had already built in my other job. So I love to say, go with what you know. Target those people. If I didn't have a niche and I was just going to random one-off networking events, that wouldn't have been nearly as impactful to my business as going to the Florida bar events, just to give an idea. So whatever works for you, everybody's going to probably be attracted to a different niche.
I agree. Thank you.
Absolutely. Joan, I have you up next on my screen. Joan, are you there? Okay, Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question, Jessica. Would you agree that really that what it all comes down to is adding value, whether it's the short posts or the long posts? In other words, your long posts and your long content probably add so much value to people that they say, I just got to pay attention to this. And maybe it's important for the short post to add value too, not just look at me, look at my listing, hooray for me, but what am I actually giving with this video or information? Would you agree that that's a key?
100%. So you're not going to see a ton of like just closed, just listed, just sold on my page. My page is not under contract, under contract, under contract, under contract. It's not because I'm not selling. It's funny. I had a closing yesterday and I met with a friend and she was like, how are you so low key? You just had a closing. And I'm like, I don't know. Like it's part of, it's part of the business. And, I didn't go and blast it on my pages. Now, should I? Probably. But like you said, I'm more interested in sharing value. Like, of course, I want people to see that I'm selling homes. But like you said, they're not selling because they're not following me because of the just sold, just sold, just sold, just sold. Nobody loves to see that all day, every day. They're following because of the value that I'm giving. And that's exactly correct. So finding that ideal audience and giving them the value that they want. So like going back to an example, if I was, for me, I niche down into helping other realtors. So since my niche is other realtors, if I'm putting out content on Instagram about my dog and about my just closed, they're not getting anything from that. But when I put a story up about how a deal just fell through and how I handled it, or about how I had a closing and this came up at final walkthrough, or what to do when, that's where they're connecting with me, is when they have that value. And, sometimes you put up the silly stories, the days in the life, the trending audios. I'll do all that too, just to get my page pushed out there. But I couldn't agree more. The value is why they're coming back and why they're following you. Thanks, Keith. Any more questions? I'm just going through the chat for a second.
I had a question. Sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand.
No problem. Go ahead, Desiree.
My question, I put it in the chat. It was, are you changing what you post from platform to platform? Because someone suggested to me, like, download Meta or something, and then you build I don't have anything right now, I'm one of those people. So do you build like Facebook and Instagram at the same time, and then you post something and it just targets everybody? Or are you changing what you post from Facebook to Insta to TikTok, different videos?
So, great question. So there's two different ways you can go about it. Like I know Deep, for example, he records videos and then he puts them out to the different platforms. So it's the same video and then he'll put them out to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. And he's able to take that one piece of content and basically multiply himself. So I'll say, I think that's the best way to do it. It saves your time, it saves your energy. I don't necessarily do that because what I find is that I have different audiences on each platform, which is just kind of what happened with the way I was building. Like I said, my Instagram has always had a main target of other agents. I found with TikTok, I had some more creative freedom. I started doing market updates and targeting more like local following, targeting other people who are maybe more direct buyers and sellers. So for me, it's just my content doesn't always cross over. But if you are able to do what Deep is doing, and what I'd eventually like to do is put that one video on every platform that you can that fits the bill. Obviously, if you're filming this way, long ways, you're not going to put it on YouTube, but you just have to have the right formatting. So TikTok and Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels could all be the same video if you have the same audience on the platforms.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, you'll find different things work for different platforms. Instagram definitely favors shorter form content. Like I find like on Instagram, the same video from TikTok will not do as well. But, at the end of the day, you'll kind of see what lands and what doesn't. You may want to do two separate content strategies, and you may find that putting the same video out is just what's worth your time.
Okay. And as far as if you did want to do like an educational for other people? Are you just strictly going to YouTube for this, or is there another platform that also fits the bill for long term?
For long form, I would say the two main places you'd want to go for long form are YouTube and podcasting, just because of how prevalent those are and how easy they are for the consumer to access. I'm sure there are other platforms that come and go, but I'd rather see you on a platform that people are utilizing. Like I have 5 podcast apps on my phone. So as a consumer, like I am already listening to podcasts, and that's what I listen to in my car anyway. So that was a natural next step for me to add the podcast in. If you're a YouTube user, I would say go YouTube. I prefer those two because I find that's where the consumer is more comfortable as well, rather than going to some like one-off platform.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Keith, do you have another question? Or did your hand just not go down?
Nope, I need to take it down. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. I am not keeping track. And then Shannon, I haven't heard from you yet. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to see if I heard you correctly. When you have a Facebook page or an Instagram, do you have to start a new business page, or did you say you could use your personal pages that you've already had? Because I've had Facebook for a few years, but I don't have any other real social media presence. And then I was told I had to start a new Facebook page for business. Is that true?
Sure. So with Facebook, I know there can be some blurred lines. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So Facebook business pages are where you can put your ads. So if you were going to be doing Facebook ads and you wanted to be putting money behind your Facebook page, you would need a Facebook business page. You cannot promote your personal page. And just for business purposes, if you're building that online presence, it's good to have a Facebook business page where people can find you. Now, can you use your personal page for business? My answer is yes. Obviously, you don't want to get too spammy because a lot of the people following you are not following you to see the just sold. But what I do is, because like we talked about, I like to infuse my personality into my content. I will share that to my Facebook personal page as well. So people just get that reminder I'm in real estate. I pick and choose a little more what goes on my Facebook personal page, because if you're too spammy, you can get reported. So you just want to be a little more careful on that. So you can start a Facebook business page. It's not going to get as much traction. If you want to put ad spend, you do need the Facebook business page. If you just want to remind your Facebook friends that you're in real estate, go for the personal page. Don't overcomplicate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Will, go ahead.
Hey, Jessica, I know there's a lot of importance also like in what you write below, and I had to go answer a call. So if you discussed it while I was out, but to put most people, as they're scrolling through, they're just going to catch you and watch you or whatever. But underneath that, I've seen people with, 3 lines and a few hashtags, and then some with this elaborate long, here's this, link to this, link to this, link to this. What kind of importance do you place on just like maybe a quick caption, like save thousands, blah, 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 and then whatever, or breaking, stuff like that we see out there. That seems like another element to grabbing people's attention.
Sure. So I think, again, it's going to be super personal to how you structure and style your page, but I've seen it work for both. There is that theory that people's attention spans have basically dwindled to nothing. And so you will see, if you have a super long post, probably, especially on TikTok, people are probably not going to read it. However, on Instagram or on Facebook, if it's engaging and it's bringing people, and you're a good writer and people are able to see that side of you and they're able to connect with you through your writing, absolutely post a long post. There are some people who are going to connect with people better through writing than video. And that's okay. So if you're able to be engaging, maybe start with a hook. That's really important. Having that hook as the first line so people continue to read and they want to see the story. I think that that's great. I still do that on my social medias. I haven't ditched the long captions just yet. And they're a great place, like you said, to embed a call to action. So if they read through a little story and then, to learn more, go here. If you're in this position, here's the podcast episode to learn more about how I handled it. And you can use that in different ways. So I'm not against the long captions. I think people read them as long as they're catchy and engaging. And Liz said, utilize hashtags. I agree. Hashtags are important. In Instagram and TikTok, you can caption your area too. So you can put like Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. You can actually tag your location and it will get pushed out to people that are in that location. So like there are some like local market updates that I've done that have gotten like 15,000 views. And I know that it's just because I put Broward County or Palm Beach County, and that it's just hitting all those people within. So TikTok is super powerful for marketing as a realtor. That's why I started to shift my focus on TikTok to more like direct buyer to seller content, because I didn't need that middleman of an agent there anyway, because TikTok was so good at getting my content in front of local people. Any other questions?
You're sharing this as public, right? All the time on your Facebook and stuff, instead of just friends?
Yeah, great question. So my Instagram is public, my TikTok is public, my Facebook page is public, but there are some posts, like if they're personal or if I'm tagged in something, that are to just friends, just to keep some of the personal stuff on there to just friends. So if it's business, it's public. If it's has a little more of a personal side, I'll do it to just friends. Like I was talking about, I was thinking of adding a more personal Facebook, because if you do want to share to your friends and family, it is great. So I don't know, because I don't feel super comfortable posting like personal stuff to thousands of people that I don't know. Any other questions? By IS, do you mean Instagram, Shannon?
Yes, sorry. So you
Oh,
can tell
no
I'm
problem.
text
Yes.
happy.
No problem at all. So to become, so what she was asking is, to become savvy on Instagram, do you recommend taking an Instagram masterclass? Whatever works for you. Honestly, on Instagram, I think, you know, especially if it doesn't feel like something you're comfortable with, watching YouTube videos, you know, going just to the basics of learning how to set up an account. There are videos on YouTube that will teach you how to put your name in, how to set your bio up, how to write out a post. And I think that that's really important to feel comfortable on the app. And honestly, my biggest piece of advice to learn these apps is to start as a consumer. I would not have been posting on TikTok if I had never been on the app before. I learned how to use TikTok by using it as a consumer. And I still, as a consumer of TikTok, that dictates how I post, because I know what's trending. I know what's going on the app. I know what people are looking for. I know what does well. Some of it's my own market research from my videos, but by being a consumer on the apps, I know what's working and what's working to post. So start as a consumer, even if it's a few months, start as a consumer to the apps. And then I think you'll be a lot more comfortable with it. I can't imagine just going in and being like, I'm going to post on Instagram when I've never spent a day on my life on Instagram. So that would be super overwhelming.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And like I mentioned, I know there was a lot in the chat that I missed. So if there was anything important that came up or any questions that you had, please put them back in the chat again, or feel free to unmute yourself.
Jessica,
Yeah.
can you hear me? Hi,
Hello.
I'm on my phone. Hi, how are you? This is Judith. We met before, I think, on
Absolutely.
chat. So I have a question for you. I heard that many people hire these companies to manage their social media. I think that's very impersonal, you know, because I've seen those accounts and they pretty much, you know, they're just, you know, advertised like communities or, but what do you think about that? And at what point would you think would be appropriate for someone to hire somebody to manage their social media? Do you think that's like important enough to have somebody to do that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I agree with you. In my personal opinion, I do think those accounts tend to be pretty impersonal. So if you're going to use social media as a lead gen strategy, I want your personal blood, sweat, and tears going into it, right? Because like you said, you are able to identify when the account's being managed by somebody else. So if you can identify it and I can identify it, we're probably not connecting with that person because we already know they're not even running their accounts. So if social media for you is a lead gen strategy and it's something you're going to use for your business as lead generation, I don't want you to have it professionally managed, at least for the first year. If you blow up and you need help posting and you need help, getting your content out there, absolutely, if it's a time management tool. But to just grow your own pages through a company that's going to post generic photos for you, I'm not a fan, because I think a lot of this call has been about, well, what differentiates you and how do you get yourself out there? It's by infusing your own personality and letting people get to know you and building the know, like, and trust. Social media is a relationship tool at the end of the day. So I do not suggest it if you're starting out, especially if you're using for lead gen. Now, if you want it for an online presence and you just want somebody to quickly go up, set up your page, put some great photos up there and be done with it, maybe there are people out there that you could pay like for 5 hours and they could set up your page for you. And then, kind of like a set it and forget it. But that would only be for my people that want just a resume on their Instagram. That would not be for the people that want to build leads and build relationships on there.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other questions? How many leads do you get a month with social media? Oh, that's such a good question. I haven't kept track as much with the leads. I know that in 2021, it was just about 40% of my closings were from social media alone. I'd have to go back and look at the leads to conversion rate, because it also depends on what you're defining a lead as on social. Some people define their followers as leads. For me, I don't define them as a lead until they actually fill out the form or book a call with me, or if they're an agent, when they send me a referral. So I would say on average, I would say probably about 10 to 20 solid leads a month. And then how many of those turned into a sale? I would say about a third.
Do you pay for any of your social media, or is this all organic?
For the most part, it's organic. Here and there, I'll boost a post if it's like more informational and more with a really strong call to action. But honestly, I think I've done that maybe a few times throughout the year. I think it's awesome and I have no problem with people doing it. It's just not something that I feel savvy on. So I don't personally spend a ton of money on ads because I think there's a whole science behind it too. So what I'm talking about today is the relationship builder. It's about using social media more organically. I think ads are great, but it's just not something that I personally pursue as part of my strategy right now.
Jessica, can I ask you another question?
Absolutely.
As a person that is just getting started, in real estate and, in social media, what do you think it is more important to have a very good presence in social media like Facebook, like Instagram, or Google? What do you think about Google? I mean, I know Google is not social media, but it's internet, it's your presence out there. So what do you think it is more important?
That's a tough one, because I've had people say, so for me, because I'm more social media focused, I'm going to lean towards social media because that's what brings me leads. But I think it's always great, especially to build up your Google profile and to have like a ton of 5-star reviews and then start doing Google targeted ads. It's just a whole other strategy. Like you said, Google isn't really social media. So I would say it just depends on where you want to spend your time and energy. For me, I'm going to say social media because I've had so many people come to my page and refer me business from seeing my social media, but that's from somebody who uses it regularly and consistently for business. So, and I don't use Google as consistently because I've had so many issues with it. And just like probably somebody will say the same thing about social media, that they've had issues with social media, so they don't use it regularly. So for me, I'm biased. It would be social media. But then again, I know I always say it, but like you can be successful literally any way in this business.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Deep, go ahead.
Thanks, Jessica, for doing this. This was amazing. One of the things I want to bring up too, and I can guarantee you that Jessica's going to agree to, is a lot of people trying to get in this social media platform, equity in it. It's like doing calls. If you don't make calls every day, 5 days a week, you're not going to get the lead. If you think social media is going to be your thing. Other big thing I want you guys to focus on, Don't worry about likes. Don't worry about the views. Nobody cares about that. If you have 5 people liked your video or 5 people viewed your video, and you can get 1 lead out of that, that's a good enough lead. And the other biggest thing I want to tell you, if you get anything out of this call, you're going to get a lot of people commenting on your post saying we can get you more views and more followers. Do not do that. Instagram will flag your account. You would never be shown to anybody else. So if you can learn anything today, that's one of the biggest things I would not do. That's it.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's a good point. Yeah, no follow trains, no paying for views, none of that. It's not worth it. People, if you have, and you guys will see this too, and you can sniff these out from a mile away. You will go to an account that has 20,000 followers and 7 likes on a photo. That means that they paid for those followers. And some people do it for various reasons. I understand that sometimes it feels like you need to do that, but what happens is, and what Deep is saying, is that your conversion rate goes way down, and Instagram sees that, or TikTok sees that you're not converting, and nobody cares about your content. So now they're not showing your content because you basically let them know nobody cares about it because 0.00001% of people are engaging with you. So the biggest thing, like I talked about for social media, is relationships, in my opinion. And it's a relationship builder, a community builder. And that's what's brought me so many agents to my team and so many leads from these platforms, is building the relationships and having that over time, and like real people followers. The bots won't do anything for you. They'll just mess up your algorithm. Thank you for sharing that, Deep. That's a great point. And Chris said, block words, promote it on and follow. Those comments can't be posted afterwards. Is that for like the spam accounts that are like buy crypto from me?
The ones that go on your profile and comment, promote it on, or show it on Boca Raton Daily here. Like, I don't like seeing that. I don't want my followers to see it. So you can go block certain words to block the spammers from posting their comments, or at least to hide it.
Yeah, there's so much spam on social media. It's part of the territory, unfortunately. So that's a great idea. Chris was sharing that you can actually block those words from being posted on your comments. Any other questions? I know we're past the 9:30 mark, so thanks for hanging with me. Jason, go ahead.
What are the 5, you were talking about 5 podcasts or things that you listen to? I'm just curious. Can you share which like podcasts you follow or that might influence your social media?
Absolutely. So I follow Tom Ferry pretty religiously. He's a real estate coach. He has a podcast, a YouTube, he has everything. I follow the Ninja Selling podcast. I like that one as well. They're more about like, they're really strong on database. I also follow business creators. So like people who are business coaches. I follow Amanda Francis, who talks about money and business coaching. Sabrina Phillips, she's a business coach. So there's like some crossover where I feel like I learn a good amount about social media from business coaches, not necessarily real estate coaches, but then I learn a lot about real estate from real estate coaches. So I would say my following is a good mix of business coaches as well as real estate creators. I follow people that are just really good at social media, like Stevie Hahn. Chris Dove is amazing. She's gone viral quite a few times too. So really learning from like other creators and what they're doing. Deep has a really cool channel and his content is very different from mine. And I like to see what he does. So Deep, can you guys, Chris Dove and Deep and Liz Quinones are just a few that I see here that really stand out on their social medias within our group. They're great to follow too, because they're doing different things. We all do different things on social media. So it's cool to see like your actual group doing it and how they're being successful with it as well.
I'm sorry to ask this. Are you with eXp
I
Realty?
am. Yep.
Okay. Can I just, this is after hours, so maybe no one will
Yeah, go ahead.
find me at the stake. I ran into an agent at one of my listings and he does a lot of video, YouTube, just video and houses going through. And he has been with a local brokerage for 20 years, never been with more of a national brokerage, but he's a big Tom Ferry fan. he reached out to some of their coaching and was like, hey, I'm thinking about forming a team or, leaving this. And they were all saying, hey, go to EXP. That's what we would do. Like, so that was kind of huge to hear someone as big as Tom Ferry and some of their people say, push them to be like, hey, if you're going to do that, you need to go to EXP Realty. Just putting it out there, that was a random interaction I had, but man, just powerful to hear it from somebody else that I had no clue of.
Yeah, that's interesting because Tom Ferry is not brokerage affiliated that I know of. I believe he's not. He's not even licensed, and that's
No, I don't think he is
too with
either. But
him.
just some of the coaches back then, just with it,
Yeah. So I mean, I'm obviously biased on that as well, but I think EXP does have an amazing team platform, and it's really unlike anywhere else. So I'm not shocked that they would tell them to grow their teams through EXP. But yeah, that's interesting.
And then you said you had a team. Do you have a non-traditional team?
Yeah, I have a self-organized team with EXP. So my agents come in as individual agents and they're able to grow their own individual real estate businesses. We're not throwing expectations on them. They're not part of a traditional real estate team. So they come in as their own agent, and then we do these mastermind calls. And then we also have our own mastermind call. If they're a new agent, I take them through a coaching program with me. And yeah, so I have my own self-organized team with EXP.
Cool. Thank you for all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Any other questions?
I was going to say, if there's no other questions, then I'll at least cut the recording.
Yeah, cut the recording.
To the after party. Thank you again so much, Jessica. We appreciate you tremendously. And everyone, if you guys check out the chat, you will see several of our members have thrown in Jessica's handles in there. You guys can follow her on social media, and then several people that she mentioned as well. You can find their information in the chat.